Good afternoon, Wildcare friends and family. My name is Rebecca. I am the Director of Outreach Marketing and Events for Wildcare, and I am at the home of our Executive Director, Stephanie Ellis, because today we are releasing a hummingbird that has been in her care for quite some time. So before you see that wonderful release, I am going to turn the phone around, and Stephanie is going to share some facts with you about a couple of hummingbirds that are not quite ready to go, but are still in her care, and then we will head outside and you guys can be a part of this monumental event this is my first release, so I'm very, very excited to be here and to share it with all of you. So without further ado, here's our Executive Director, Stephanie.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. I love that this is your first release and it's perhaps the tiniest patient ever that you could see in a release. And I just want you all to know, we never know how wildlife releases are going to go. And with hummingbirds, they usually shoot out of the pen like in an instant. And so you might not even see anything. But what we're going to do is we're going to slow down the video and post it. And then another thing you should know, we're not going to show this, but an unfortunate part of a hummingbird's life is that they are extremely territorial. And so you probably have seen at your feeders and your flowers that hummingbirds actually will aggressively defend a patch of flowers or a feeder. And so this little bird, his first forte into the world, other birds in the area will be aggressive. And it's hard for me to see every year when I release them, but I remind myself that if this bird was just leaving the nest, the same thing would happen no matter where they are. So I'm hoping for success. I hope he spins back around and drinks all the flowers that are outside and that everything's fine. So we'll first go to these two young hummingbirds. I'm going to sit down. Actually, oops, sorry everyone. If that doesn't work, does that work? Mm-hmm. So these are the two younger hummingbirds that I have in my care. They're not quite ready to go, but you will see that one of them is flying quite a bit. I have to be really careful when I open the pen. There's one who's still being very babyish and prefers to get his food via syringe. He's also drinking. He's perfectly capable of sipping from the syringe that you see here or the hummingbird feeder that's hanging here. But he chooses to be a baby. So I've had these birds with me now for 2 weeks, over 2 weeks. And this other bird here is, I'm sure you'll see him fly. He's doing really, really well. Actually, I'll get another syringe and show you how they sip. And I'll talk about the diet. I'm going to close this. I'll be right back.
Is he puffing up like that because he's excited to be fed? Putting his head back like that?
Oh yeah, so his crop is very full right now. The crop is a holding area for food. Ooh. And so he'll digest that very quickly. But yes, they take on this sort of sleepy appearance. Let's see if this one will sip.
Oh, fine.
And I do spoil them. They're here. To me, it's a long time to have them for 2 to 3 weeks, but for them, it's an important stage in their lives. And so the food that I'm feeding them, this is really important, but it's not sugar water. Sugar water as a complete diet is not adequate. Most people don't know that hummingbirds actually have really high protein needs, and they eat a ton of insects in the wild. So while they're probing all those flowers in your yard, they're also eating all the little bugs that are in and around the flowers. And so they regurgitate nectar and insects to their young. And so if I was to feed these guys just on sugar water, they would start wasting, poor feather growth, and they would not survive. So we feed them a special diet. It's a product called Nectar Plus, and it's supposed to be a complete hummingbird diet. And even so, when you see the words complete, nothing is ever complete. And so I actually have to add in crushed dried insects as well as a vitamin mineral mix. So then that all together makes a complete diet for these little guys. And something else that I want to point out, so a lot of you are probably concerned thinking, oh my God, it's September. All the hummingbirds are going away, and how will they have time to get ready? And the good thing is, because we're on Cape Cod, the weather is much milder here. I mean, can be anywhere from, 10 to 20 degrees warmer on Cape Cod than the mainland. So birds tend to linger longer. So it is not uncommon to have hummingbirds in your yard in October on Cape Cod. And actually bird banding research records have shown that there are actually hummingbirds here until mid-November. So September, they're fine, don't fret. October, you don't have to worry. If we're approaching end of October and looking at bad weather and deep freezing, that's when I would get really nervous. But otherwise, you don't have to worry. And did you have a question?
Can you share with people how often they should clean their feeders?
Yes, so you should clean your feeders during warm weather, like that heat wave we had back in July. You should be changing your hummingbird feeders every 2 to 3 days. Because what happens is it gets slimy, it gets rancid, and then that causes fungal issues for the birds, poor developing feathers and poor feather quality. So clean your feeders I honestly just use boiling hot water and give it a good cleaning, and you can use a pipe cleaner to get into the ports. But the recommendation is like a 1 to 9 bleach to water solution, and then just dry it off and fill it. So change your hummingbird nectar every 2 to 3 days in warm weather. In cooler weather, you can get away with 4 or 5 days or so. I change it often because I enjoy seeing them and I don't want to make them sick. The other thing is, people are always worried, should I pull in my hummingbird feeder? Because if I don't pull it in, then they're not going to migrate. That is like hocus pocus, thank God. Birds are, they're responding to a lot of different migratory cues. And photoperiod, the change in daylight, our days are getting shorter, and they respond to that. In response, they start fattening up, they become restless, migratory restlessness, and they know they need to go. So that does not mean, it's not going to matter if your bird feeder is out until March. You're probably not going to have anything on it in the winter, but don't worry about these guys staying, because they are responding to environmental cues and they are going to leave. If anything, having it out will help them along their way for the later stragglers, the young birds who are taking some time to figure it out. We always think that our bird feeders are like their one stop and that's it. And I love thinking that also. But the truth is they're feeding from many different sources and getting everything that they need. So don't worry. You can keep your feeders out. They'll be fine. Just make sure to clean them and do fresh nectar.
Somebody asked if you could clean it in the dishwasher.
Yeah, sure. You can clean it in the dishwasher. Absolutely. And then it will be ready to go. That's actually a great idea.
And Charlene says that she feeds hers with white vinegar. Is that okay?
Cleans hers with white vinegar? Yeah, sure. That's absolutely fine. As long as there's obviously no residue. And someone had asked me last week, I think it was Amy, if you need to use distilled water when making your hummingbird mixture. And no, you don't. It can be tap water, unless you live in a place that has unusual, mineral content in the water. You can go ahead and use tap water. I always do. So.
Paul says hello, and Trey can hear the blue jays here. Will they bully the hummingbirds when we release it?
Hi, Trey. That's a great question. So I have a family of 6 blue jays, and I love them even though they eat absolutely everything here. Thank God, hummingbirds, the one we're going to release, he is so ready. So the jay won't even be able to get within, inches of him. Thank God. And most animals don't bother with hummingbirds because they're so small. It's not a real good prey item. But certainly if a jay came across a debilitated hummingbird, they would eat it. They're opportunistic. So that's a great question. So I'm not concerned about the jays. Other predators are sometimes dragonflies, sometimes praying mantis, sometimes bees and wasps. The biggest challenges that hummingbirds face, honestly, is window strikes. You know, hummingbirds, especially if you have a floral arrangement in your home in the window, they'll sometimes see that, and they don't perceive the glass as a structure, and so they'll try to sip from those flowers inside your house and strike the window. Also during migration, windows, and also just the reflection of windows in general. If it's reflecting the flowers in your yard, they often will hit windows. It's really unfortunate. And then sometimes they actually have battle wounds, territorial wounds. Hummingbirds are so tiny, so mean. The syringe is a little bit high for his little face. I will lower that. And so the food is made fresh. It's given fresh every 2 hours. I'll top these guys off since you're there.
Somebody's asking if hummingbirds stay in a certain radius of their food source. Oh, it's Jackie Crockett. She says hi.
Oh, hi, Jackie. She's my neighbor.
So she says, do hummingbirds stay in a certain radius of the food source and chance of seeing this baby again at your feeder?
Oh, that's a great question, Jackie. So I will be able to recognize this bird probably for a period of 1 to 2 weeks. The behavior will be a little different because it's a young bird, and also that crisp, brand new plumage of a young bird. But after 2 weeks, they behave, you know, like adults. They look like adults, and so I won't be able to recognize that bird. And that's a good question, and I should point out on my deck. Oops, sorry guys. There, how's that? Super spoiled, super lazy. Hummingbirds can't be lazy. So on my deck, what I do is I place, for several days before release, I place the hummingbird's pen on my deck. And so the hummingbird can observe where all the other hummingbirds are going, where the activity is, where the flowers are. And that really seems to work. They seem to be able to recognize and go to the feeders, the hummingbird feeders, immediately. I will put out a small feeder of the special nectar for this hummingbird. However, what I've learned, so the nectar is very expensive, and I've learned that once the neighborhood hummingbirds find it, then they want to drink it all. You know, it's like this. Oh my God, it's like the frosting on
open
the cake.
bar.
Exactly. So, yes, so that happens. And of course I want to feed all of them, but the others can drink the plain old sugar water. So why don't we go outside and get ready to release that bird? I'm super excited.
All right. Bye, guys.
And I hope people can see, even though it's bright.
Let's see.
So this is the bird who's ready to go, and the reason I know he's ready to go is that he is able to fly in every direction, including backwards, which is, hummingbirds are really the only birds on the planet that can truly fly backwards. And so these birds, they need to be able to turn on a dime, hawk insects from the air. And so this little bird, you know, I'm attracting fruit flies into the cage. I have rotten fruit in there. And this bird is able to grab small insects out of the air. He's so fit that he does not become fatigued. And we can't have fatigue because his life is stressful, and then they need to migrate. Ruby-throated hummingbirds, some of them migrate over the Gulf Stream, which is incredible when you think about these tiny birds and that migratory feat of traveling over the Gulf into Central in South America. It's pretty incredible. Some of them won't make movements quite as far. You know, this bird could go to Florida. And as you can see, there's also a degree of restlessness. And so this bird is ready to go. And so what I'll do is I'll go over there to open it, and then we can get set up.
Okay.
And again, you guys, you might not see anything because it usually happens pretty quickly. But then check our Facebook page because we're going to slow the video down so you can see this little guy go.
Amy says hi from next door. She's loving watching this, and she's got 2 feeders with fresh nectar ready for all of your babies.
Thank you, Amy. This is awesome. And Amy will probably see this baby. So will you let me know when I can open it completely?
Well, I'm ready, I think.
Carrie, are you ready?
Yeah.
This is sad. I'm so sad to see him go, but it's for the best. I can't keep you over winter. Are you really going to perch up there? A little bit slippery. I'll move out of the way. You landing?
Mm-mm.
Come here. There he goes.
Oh.
So my umbrella was a little bit confusing, but it's to provide him with shade and cover while he's on the deck. Did he land?
I don't see him.
I'm glad you guys got to see him for a little longer than is usual. They usually shoot out and then a hummingbird comes after them immediately. And the good news is they're kind of clicker trained. So when a bird isn't ready, I'm usually able to get them back.
Oh, good.
So I will see him and I will supplement, you know, I will feed him if he comes back. So, and this is my deck for the birds. I don't know if you guys can see in the sun, but I'm in the canopy and I just have lots of flowers and lots of stuff that they love. And 2 hummingbird feeders.
Success!
Yay, that's awesome! So I will keep you posted on Facebook. If I see this guy up close again and can get photos, I'll definitely share them. And thank you so much, everyone. It's a real joy to take care of these birds. It's also a lot of work, but it's a really great thing to be able to release them.
Thank you everyone for joining us on Stephanie's deck this afternoon. I think we can call that one a success. Just as a reminder, Wild Care does survive mostly by donations, so if you enjoyed this hummingbird release and you want to help us help more hummingbirds and more other native species, you can go to our website and click the Donate Now button. Every dollar counts and helps us make it through another season, and we will keep you posted on whether we see this little baby or any of his friends throughout the season. Take care and have a great